Text 815. Too bad we can't nominate Tony Soprano as House Speaker. He'd get things done.
That's true.
Rodney Davis joins us, and former U.S. Rep for Illinois' 13th until a cult-like bad primary system cost him his job and, frankly, hurt the people in the 13th. But more on that on another day because we're talking about the ongoing battle for Speaker. And is Jim Jordan going to get it done this time around? And if that's the case, is that a good idea, considering Jim Jordan has literally never passed a law? And he's been in Congress since 2007. Anyway, Rodney Davis joins us now. Thank you for coming on again.
Hey, no worries. Glad to be on with you. How's everything going in Chicago?
We're well. And does this process pain you, or from a distance do you go, thank God I'm not there?
It pains me because I love the institution. It was a privilege to serve in the U.S. House. I just watch many of my colleagues who want to govern. They're in paralysis right now. And frankly, hopefully, we'll get some resolution on that today.
Do you believe Jordan can do the job, considering his partisanship and his inability to get anything done on his own agenda over the course of the last 15 years that he served?
I do believe Jim has changed a lot since he got to Congress and since my early years serving with him. Jim was the legislative terrorist that John Boehner described him as. But over the last two terms, I worked pretty closely with him, and I consider him a friend. We worked very well together. But Jim is Jim. He's going to be he's going to be the same person that he tells you he is. So will he be more conservative? And will he be more partisan than other speakers? Absolutely he will. But with that job comes expectations. And every speaker has to morph into being able to find that principled compromise, or you just continue the paralysis of not having a speaker right now.
You know this better than most. I certainly feel I know this. There are those in Congress who are not the brightest bulbs on the planet, who were elected for various reasons in various parts of the country. And they don't fully understand, and in some cases, sadly, don't care about the impact of not having a Speaker of the House and literally 1/3 of our government being unable to function. How do you fix that?
Well, elections have consequences. Elections matter. And frankly, the American electorate, along with the overly partisan gerrymandered districts that exist today, the mentality of a member of Congress in certain districts is to blow the place up. So, unfortunately, what they're doing is representing the will of their own constituents. And that's not just relegated to the Republican side, where people like Matt Gaetz would rather have the government in paralysis. It's also on the Democratic side. It's just that we're in charge as Republicans right now, so the focus is on us. And Democrats have been able to corral their far left a lot better than the Republicans have done, clearly.
Boy, that's a sentence I never thought I'd hear you say, and it's kind of amazing to hear because Democrats' motto is we're the circular firing squad, and now they get to sit back and watch what the Republicans are doing to themselves. Andrea?
Rodney, I'm curious what some of the floor discussions are. We'll see. We saw this with Kevin McCarthy. We see this now with Jim Jordan kind of going up to different members of the party asking for things. What are some of these on-floor conversations that are being had? Are they promises that are being exchanged?
No. I love when people ask, what are people talking about on the House floor? You really don't want to know what they're talking about on the House floor because it usually has absolutely nothing to do with what's going on in the moment. Conversations that Jim Jordan is having one-on-one with these members are not happening in public view on the House floor. I think Jim Jordan made a tactical mistake after the first round of votes when he failed to secure the speakership. Instead of going to try and talk to those 20 people one-on-one like he did, he should have went into our room called HC5 where the Republicans gather for their conference meetings, and he should have had his allies stand up and argue why he should be speaker. But Jim really truly believes if he can get in front of you one-on-one, he can talk you into supporting him or anything that he wants to support. Jim's biggest advocate is none other than Kevin McCarthy. And there's only one person that can gather in that room and quiet everybody while he talks, and that's Kevin McCarthy. And it's so sad that 8 people in that room decided to take the only adult in the room and kick him out of the speakership.
But that's a great irony, right? Because McCarthy's second, the man who is now in a position to have his powers expanded to actually be the full Speaker of the House, even if it's a very temporary thing. And by the way, doesn't seem to want the job. He's the guy that helped get Kevin McCarthy elected finally last January. And now the House may have to elevate him to that position. As far as I'm concerned, why not put McCarthy back in the chair?
Because those 8 somehow have a personal beef with him, and it would never happen, unfortunately.
But speaking of never happened, now the other part of this is the math on the other side. There are Republicans in that 20 who are in districts that Biden won by a comfortable margin. How do they vote for Jordan?
Well, they haven't been.
No, but I'm saying today, how do they vote for Jordan? How does he change that?
I don't think he does.
Well, then he can't get there, right? I mean, I don't see any way where the math works.
Yeah, I don't see Jim Jordan securing the speakership, and frankly, I think his opposition grows today. And keep in mind, Jim Jordan, Patrick McHenry, and others were the biggest Kevin McCarthy supporters during that excruciating 15 rounds of votes that we saw in January. But the big difference is Kevin McCarthy had the unwavering support of over 200 Republicans, and they were not going to lose to the small group that eventually caved and allowed Kevin to be Speaker. That loyalty is not there for any of the candidates that have been put forth so far.
Okay, so what do you think Jim Jordan's magic number would be? So will it be? Will he surpass the 15? Will he stop before then? And if he doesn't get the votes,
how many times? How many rounds?
How many
will he go?
rounds do you think will do this? This circumference
before they take him out,
running circle,
and take him out in a straitjacket.
Yeah, and if it's not Jim Jordan, who do you think it should be or will be?
Well, look, I serve with a lot of great colleagues who would be great speakers, so I don't want to name just one.
Pick them all. We got time. I'll shut the show down. Give me your list.
Well, we'll nominate you, Steve. Better yet, we'll nominate Andrea.
That is a better idea.
In the end, Jim's going to have to decide if he keeps bleeding support whether or not to withdraw. And Jim's a fighter, so I don't know how many more rounds he's willing to take, but the math isn't there if you go from 20 to 22 to 35, et cetera, and you start to see the writing on the wall. I've said this all along. I think Patrick McHenry will likely end up being the Speaker pro tem with expanded powers. And I said that weeks ago. Always watch out for McHenry. Very well liked. This is a guy who came in as a bomb thrower like Jim Jordan and morphed himself into one of the most respected voices, most respected leaders and committee chairs that we have that's still a partisan warrior, but he's somebody who knows how to govern through principal compromise.
What is we're late here, and we don't want to keep you because we know you have a busy schedule as well, but what does that mean, or is it to be determined what it means in regards to how long he would serve in that position?
It's all TBD because, as I said the last time we all talked, we are in a point in our nation's history where this has never happened.
Right. And
the House and the Senate and governing agencies and governing councils all over the country operate on precedent. They operate on majority rule. So things that have happened in the past don't really reflect the situation we're in today. So I think there's some constitutional and parliamentary questions that need to be answered, but I think they can be answered. And there's one thing that the Supreme Court has always said about the House acting is that the House as a constitutional entity sets its own rules. So they rule by majority. So a majority of Republicans and Democrats can stand up today, in my opinion, and if I was there, I would say they could stand up today, cast a vote, and give Patrick McHenry whatever powers he needs to run the institution and for how long they want him to run that institution officially. So that's why we're in unprecedented times right now. And really, I feel like I'm talking in circles because I can't give you a direct answer.
No, I get it. I get it. I'm nominating you. Get on a plane. Go there now.
I was there yesterday, and I left yesterday.
Well, that's why you're being nominated. You're the smart one. Thank you, Rodney. I appreciate your time.
Thank you both. Take care.
Thank you, Rodney.
U.S. Representative for Illinois is 13th from 2013 to 2023. 10 years service.
He's great.
And I frankly hope he runs again as a true conservative.
Mm-hmm.
Don't agree with everything he said or everything he voted for, but I certainly appreciate the fact that he's a true conservative. You need that and not the fake Republican Party that exists now.